Okay, hi. So I wanted to do a couple of other videos. Um, I think that there are certain things that you can get out of this class, just generally speaking, that are like great, right? And I think that there are also some aspects to it that are magic and witchcraft that maybe we haven't talked about before. And so I wanted to just sort of like briefly summarize those things. I've done magic for a very long time, and I participated with a lot of groups over the years. Basically, since sometime in the 80s when I came of age, I was shoving my face into the face of authors, being involved at metaphysical boutiques and stores, occult bookshops, meeting witches, and I've met a variety of people from Greg Nielsen to he did Pyramid Power and Pendulum Power, a lot of that stuff. The book on Atlantis, out of Pyramid Power, in the 80s and 90s. Metaphysics, popular big name pagan now, or then, who aren't anymore, who aren't with us anymore. And none of that validates. I'm not using that as like a some sort of litmus to say like how experienced I am, as in a better or worse scenario, but to say that like I've kind of had like a lot of tastes of a lot of different things. I've done a lot of powwow, I've done a lot of secret ceremony, I've done a lot of group work, I've done some coven work in Alexandrian and Gardnerian covens. I've been around in those things, and those were all part of the process of me discovering things. The reason that I'll say this. When I hit Reiki in 94, that was a game changer for me. And I think it's probably because of the way it was also presented to me through my Reiki master, Claudia McGregor and Cheryl Coleman. Over the years, that sort of dialed in a certain quality to the type of magic that I wanted to do, which was meditative and energy work. Later on in my life, as I met I would say I did a lot of things solitaire after that. I stopped working with groups and I just did a lot of things myself. And later on, when I met Christopher Pensack, I think that was in 2004, 2005. The thing that inspired me and that brought me into wanting to participate with the Temple of Witchcraft was two things. One, their model was based on energy work and meditation, and that's what I did. So I was like, okay, we're on the same page in that one. And the other one was that they operate in what's called an Aquarian model, and I talked about this in not the last class, but the one previous, that their model of things is to look at the way something is done from an occult eye, from a witch's eye, to participate in it, to fully participate in it and put ourselves in it, to see what opens up in it. Then to take it and do something as you would like to see it. So that's kind of what most of my classes are modeled on, is that model. If we were doing a Kabbalistic class, we would work from the Golden Dawn. We would absolutely jump deep down into that sort of thing. If we were doing, some of you are waiting for the Witchcraft 3, the Shamanic Temple of Witchcraft, we would definitely do like neo-shamanic technologies of body posture, breathing, plant medicine, and all those sorts of things. But those are jumping points, because when we become familiar with the technology of one thing, we can understand the technology that it's related to. So you may notice something in our class, which is to say that we talk about the material. I leave the rituals up to you. Because I think you have to approach them with the degree that you're comfortable with. This is why I'm asking you to find your place in it, to see where you are in your practice, but to actually participate with those deities, because there's a popularized version of them, I think, that belittles the actual experience. When you do meet the horned god, and when you go deep into that, or when you do meet the sleeping goddess, as we did, when you go deep into that, you see something that's beneath the books, that's there. And then it's to take from that magic, once you're connected to it, and how do you reconnect it? How do you reweave it into the working? Because stories are, in one sense, mythic, and that they're hitting certain things. They're hitting the Aquarius. They're hitting the sleeping energies. They're bringing those together with maybe animal medicines, or whatever you want to call those, plant energies, crystals and stones, to activate what is resonant And then there's our story, in which we weave those into the world in which we live, which has always been a unique thing to me about Los Angeles when it came to a lot of things that I've done here, is that it seemed like a city of innovation. However, those stories become teachable moments for everyone participating, right? Like that becomes the takeaway that we bring back to the circle. That's what the online group is for, is to share those experiences so that we all can see what it is that you're doing. And there's no right or wrong. Some people may have very simple rituals. Again, it's all mind. If it was all meditative for you, then it's all meditative for you. Part of the power of witchcraft, though, is doing things physically. It's that dark and light, it's the physical and the vibrational, it's bringing those things together. So maybe you did a candle on a stone. That's enough. Maybe you did a flower arrangement and a bowl of water. Maybe you did a full elaborate ritual with skulls and masks. You know, however you do it is however you do it, and you have to find your agency within the circle. What parts are attractive to you and how are you doing them, and then see what works for you and see how it sort of lands for you, because your body is a temple and that temple is expressing these energies. You know, we know where we have resistance because that's self, and that self is part of the experience, and we know where we have desire because that's self, and that self is part of the experience. And we know where we have unknown, and because that's self, seeking to know self as part of the experience. So there's lots there to get out of it. It's really on you, and I don't want you to feel, again, that in seeing all of the material that you have to do it all, you have to know it all, you have to learn it all. Again, I don't do know or experience it all. I experience the parts that stand out to me. And as that path around the year, each year as I do it, becomes well tread, new things open up for me, and those are the ways that I do things. You know, when I do the Wheel of the Year, I have 7 sisters in the north, I have 6 wisdom keepers in the east, I have 5 holders of the magic in the south, I have the 9 ladies in the west, I have the horn gods around there as well, and the 4 jacks, but I do different versions of the goddess, you know, and I do different forms of those things. Hestia is very important to me, but she's not in this work necessarily. You know, there's just things that can populate and open it up. So all of that said, I want to jump back into the energy work portion of this, because that's a key point, I think, to make about the classes, is that we can see a lot of information, but we don't want to get stuck on the information. We want to engage it self to what's there, and then practice those points. So in our last class, I had us think and feel as we called in the energies of those animals, and I want that to be a practice point for you, to close your eyes, to look at the animals that are there in the material, in the ritual aspects, like when you read the ritual, what animals are in what directions, and then think of like a little prayer, or think of like a little like calling in or calling out, like hail and welcome to groundhog, and you know, whatever is written there, or your own version of that, and just close your eyes or use your senses to feel how the energy shifts. That's a really great energetic point to feel in those things. When we work with elemental guardians, we're working with a very stepped down, more intimate and friendly energy than we can find in some of the deity energies. So that's an energy point there for you, one, where you're doing a little breath work, you're closing your eyes, so you're meditating, and you're inviting, and so you're doing a little prayer, and you're receiving, so you're doing a little spirit contact. And all those 4 things happen when you do that. So look at that as a model going forward, is working with those animal guardians. As you receive a new lesson and you see new guardians, try to play with those and see how they feel for you. The second thing that we talked about is, and we briefly talked about it in the class, and I didn't talk about it in the re-recording, was this 3-soul breathing. And so I really want to touch upon that model again and give you a little exercise for that you can work into this, that may enhance your experience. In the Temple of Witchcraft, and not only in other traditions, like my friend Kau'i is the holder of Aloha, and she has a 3 souls model as well. Some people have a 5 souls model, some people have a 12 souls model. Soul is much more complex than we give it than we see it sometimes in Judeo-Christian culture and WoTY culture. So in Temple of Witchcraft, we start with a 3, and in my personal practice, I start with a 3. The namer is the self. It is related to the heart chakra. It is a part of the experience of the world. We don't call it the ego, we call it the namer, right? The ego has so much bad connotation to it. We're always like, oh, that damn ego, right? So we're calling it the namer. This is the one that goes around that goes like, oh, this is brown with red, and oh, this is blue, and I did this, and then this is for wisdom and learning, and I did that, and this is, oh, that's sun, it warms. You know, the namer is involved in naming what is happening in the world. It's also part of the witch's tradition. It's the middle self that is very important, or co-equally important, in that that person who is naming things is the witch, right? It's not about losing this self or getting rid of this self. It's about actualizing the self into the process of evolving the self in the process through the magical crucible of witchcraft, right? Witchcraft and magic are different. Magic, everything's magic. That's life. Everything is magic. Witchcraft is a process that really particularly is involved in the namer and in bridging and bringing together the darkness and light. So it's creation and destruction. And it's the destruction parts that people usually abuse, that give witches bad names, or excerpt and really hinder the entire process, I think, that is witchcraft. So I just want to throw that in there as we look at these models. This middle self is about bringing those things together. When we breathe in here in this exercise, we're breathing the light of the world into this middle self, the namer. The lower self is the part of the shadow complex, is part of the someone is texting me like crazy. Is part of the shadow complex, is part of the lower self, the inner child, the fetch, the animal self, the plant self. There's much more than one soul there. It's a multi-leveled soul that I think is very profound. But in the beginning, we call it the lower self. It is the self that relates ancestrally. It is the self that relates to the deep world, the world of fairy. And it, I can't stop this because if I do, I'll ruin the recording, but someone like, stop texting. I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. That's my fault. So this lower self, when we breathe into it, we're breathing into the lower world. We're breathing from the underworld into the underworld, right? And underworld specifically. I don't want to flower coat that. I don't want to love and light that, right? Like, I want to say it's not negative. It's not bad. It is part of the deep self. It is part of the lower world, and it is the unconscious self in psychology. It is also includes the shadow, and it also includes the inner child. It is the less verbal or nonverbal aspects of ourselves that contain a lot of power, right? This is this deep power that's there. When we breathe from that place, we're breathing up from the underworld. We're breathing up from that deep intelligence that is us, that's connected to what was, what could be, right? To those aspects of soul. And also those lower chakras are part of that breathing mechanism, part of that subconscious self. The upper self relates to the starry self. So when we do journeys, activations, or any of those things in that level up there, that the starry self is the higher self. It is the energy that's connected to the light and vibration of the universe. But there's also darkness there too. When we do those time and tides, we're bringing in that dark and light, right? That energy manifests in the highest dark and light, and manifests in the lowest life and death, you know, like those energies, those chords that we bring together in ourselves. This energy up here, this energy of the higher self, the super conscious, the Atman, the divine self, is connected to the one, the all, the song, the singer, Pan, the energy that's vibrating in the universe. When we breathe that, we're breathing through the upper chakras. Those upper chakras are involved with the mental body, the psychic body, the spiritual body. Those energies are coming through that way. So when we breathe In this way, we're breathing from and to the three worlds, and we're breathing from and to the three selves. That models into the class. The middle world where we're doing the magic, the elemental world, the lower world where we draw on those dark goddesses and gods, the upper world we would draw on those bright goddesses and gods. Those starry path energies that are up there, these deep energies down here, and how do they come in between? As my grandfather would say, capiche? So there's that for you right there. So I just want to put that together. That was a recap from the class that I wanted to add to it. How do we tap into it energetically and meditatively? So what I'd like for you to do, and pause if necessary, is take a seat, or find a comfortable position to stand, and preferably so that your body is orientated with your hips towards the earth and your head towards the heavens. You may hold a mudra if you like. I would not recommend holding like a Buddhist mudra that's for a very specific thing, or like a magical mudra that's supposed to induce a certain type of consciousness. I want you to feel this as it is. So you align your body so that you feel the orientation of your spine, and that is an energetic pathway of light. This is recognized in many cultures and places. I recognize it as a pathway of light. It's been known by many things, pranic tube, etc. Close your eyes. Feel that alignment. Feel that path of light that follows along the spine, that runs through the exact center of your skull, throat, chest, belly, hips. And that we imagine that as a line or a pathway of light that goes up into the upper world and down into the lower world. We acknowledge that is where we draw in that light and dark and that life and death, and we weave them together and breathe them into harmony in our hearts. Right? So we breathe into the heart and we say to ourselves, I am the namer. And as you breathe in light from the world into your heart, and as you exhale, breathe light into the world around you. As we breathe up from the great below, we breathe up from that deep self, the light of the great below. I am the shaper. Express it to the heart. As we breathe down from the world above, we breathe down from that higher self. I am the watcher. Expressing it through the heart. However this lands for you. I am the 3-in-1. I am the 1-in-3. As it was, as it is, as it always shall be. Above, below, between. In perfect love and perfect trust, so mote it be. And then feel, breathe, how that light organizes for you, how that energy organizes for you, what sort of intuition or wisdom it opens up for you as a middle self who is breathing in this light from above and below and between. Bridging worlds, how does it feel? And then it's important, after we've done any sort of energy work or anything like that, to disconnect from that space, to return our consciousness back to where we're at after we're ready to like drive or whatever we're going to do. So what I usually do is I take my hands, I face them towards my body, I begin at the back of my head and neck, and I brush up and over slightly away from the skin, basically going through the major energy centers and organs of the body, and I sweep down, I give myself balance and clearance, and I release that energy into the floor. If you would like to imagine that is a cauldron there that's receiving the energy to be bubbled up as something else, or as a violet flame, that would be great. I'm going to do a couple of other videos for you, which are just some ABCs of magic that I want to talk about, and we'll go from there. So a little 20-minute video for you, and I hope it's helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. Please post to the group. You have my email and you have my telephone number. I hope you're well. Bye-bye.